Well, I don't know if I should believe it, but there are rumors, or maybe it's propaganda, that Mark Carney, the new prime minister, actually intends to cut spending. I am a skeptic. I do not believe it. I think that when he uses the word cut spending, he often follows it up immediately with make investments. So he's just renaming spending as investments. Sorry, when the government spends something, that's not an investment. You're taking away from real investments by taxing real Canadians. I am a hyper skeptic, but I do see headlines, and I see people lamenting that the 10-year party in Ottawa might be coming to an end. So to get to the bottom of it, there's only one guy I really trust. He's not a member of any political party. He takes no government funding, and his job is literally to be the champion of taxpayers. You know who I'm talking about? His name is Franco Terrazzano, and he's the boss of the Taxpayers Federation, and thank goodness we managed to get him today. Franco, great to see you. Frankly, I really need your advice here, because there are some people who are trying to convince me that Mark Carney is going to cut the government. And I don't want to close my eyes to the possibility of a miracle. We have to always be ready for miracles. But I simply don't believe that Mark Carney is a cutter. His entire team is the same as it ever was. His advisors are the same as it ever was. And he, by definition, is a government interventionist. Will you tell me the truth?
Well, look, spending cuts, I'll believe it when I see it. Okay, like I do think you're right to be skeptical, but let's just start here. We do need spending cuts, right? We should have spending cuts to the bloated federal government and its bloated bureaucracy. Let me just give you a couple numbers here. 2015, the government spent $296 billion. Okay, 2024, $540 billion.
Nuts. That's nuts.
So from $296 billion in 2015 to $540 billion in 2024. So yeah, we need some spending cuts. Now you asked the question, are we actually going to see spending go down? I'm skeptical just like you are, Ezra. And here's why. Because guess what? Fool me once. What is it? Shame on you. Fool me twice. Yeah. Shame on me. Well, in 2023, a lot of people didn't see this in the budget. It was buried, but the government actually said it was going to find $15 billion in savings over 5 years. That was the 2023 budget. Well, 2024 comes around, and what happened? The government increased spending by $25 billion. So you know what? When you increase spending by $25 billion, you're saving money wrong. Now, Ezra, will Carney make spending cuts? Honestly, I'm skeptical. We'll have to wait and see to know for sure. But what I think is going to happen is likely they will continue to increase spending, but spending growth won't be as high as what it was under the Trudeau era.
Yeah. I'm looking right now at a tweet you published, which included a graph called Full-Time Equivalence in the Federal Public Service. So obviously that's not just people in Ottawa, but that is where a lot of bureaucrats are. And it shows what some would say is a prediction that the number of, and by the way, the graph is slightly misleading, and I'm sure it was not generated by you, because it makes it look like a much more dramatic cut, because the graph starts at 300,000. Instead, it's starting at zero. So it really emphasizes the modest cuts that are coming. But you can see that that's just predictions. And their past 4 predictions in a row, they've blown through them. So yeah, I would love it if we started to ease the size of the public sector that's on everyone's back. But this very chart shows the government's trying to mislead even in their promise. And you can see that their predictions in 2022, 2023, and 2024 have all been blown through. That's why I don't believe it, Franco.
Well, yeah, I mean, great point. I mean, first of all, look, I don't give much credit to the government ever. Any government, doesn't really matter, political stripes. They don't really give us much reason to give them credit. But one agency or department that I think I will give credit to is the Parliamentary Budget Officer, right? Okay. And it's the Parliamentary Budget Officer's report that says, hey, hold on a second. The bureaucracy increased again last year, okay? And it's increased crazy amounts over a decade plus. And what the PBO report shows, and kudos to the PBO, it shows exactly that even when the government says they're going to rein in the size of the bureaucracy, they go over budget. Yeah. And even if, and the PBO is very clear, even if these so-called savings materialize, the bureaucracy will still be bigger after those savings than what it was during the height of the pandemic. So even if these savings come true, they're very, very marginal, and Canadians are still paying for way too many paper pushers, way too many tax agents, way too many bureaucrats.
That is such a crazy point that even if they make the cuts, it's more bloated than at the height of COVID. And I'm looking at that chart, and Stephen Harper left us with a modest, I mean, it was still too big, but it would, the size of government declined year after year, 2010, 11, 12. If we are still bigger than the COVID deepest moments, that's insane. I think COVID broke a taboo. It smashed the psychological barrier of out of control, insane spending and borrowing. Because I think people say, well, it's a never before crisis. We have to do it temporarily. Well, just like the income tax, I suppose, was temporary till we get through this great war. That was World War I. I think that there is no longer a political media consensus that you have to be a prudent business person in government. You have to be prudent with the money. I think that the media no longer holds government to account. And even other parties, I suppose the Conservatives are the least worst, but it used to be, show me your plan for balanced budgets. Show me your costed plans. There was a time even in the Liberal government where they actually did balance the budget. I'm thinking of Paul Martin and Jean Chrétien. I'm showing my age now. That was more than 20 years ago. That's gone. Can we get it back?
Oh, we most certainly can get it back. Things aren't too far gone that we can't correct this ship. But look, to your point, unfortunately, we don't have a political consensus. I think the people are sick and tired of these politicians, hiking our taxes and wasting our money. I think the ordinary Canadian is sick and tired. But look, the political elites, when they would just love to spend your money on themselves. Look at all the trips they go, lavish trips all around the world. But like to your point, even the Conservatives, right, in the last election, if we're going to call a spade, the Conservative Party was not promising to balance the budget. Right? Let's just call a spade a spade. Yeah. And hey, Ezra, let me just dive a little bit deeper into these bureaucracy numbers to show you how crazy it is. Okay. So you are now paying for 99,000 more federal bureaucrats today than you were in 2016. 99,000 more federal bureaucrats. But it's not just the size that has gone up. So has the cost, because the extra pay raises, the bonuses, all the other perks. Folks, in a decade, the cost of the bureaucracy has gone up 73%. A 73% increase in the cost of the bureaucracy. Are you getting anywhere close to 73% better services from the federal government? Come on.
Yeah. There's a saying in government, in the deep state, and I don't mean that in terms of spycraft. I mean in terms of the permanent bureaucracy that never goes away. There's a phrase, I'm sure you've heard it, firemen first, which is if you insist that a bureaucracy cut spending, they will cut firemen first, because that'll freak everybody out and they'll say, oh my God, we can't cut any money. We've got to keep the firemen. Another move they do in the States is they shut down national parks, because that'll get people squawking. They don't cut the crazy stuff. They cut the one or two things that people actually love, depend on, feel are essential, like firemen. And let me make a reference to a story by Clayton Domain, our friend over at True North, who has a story, exclusive leaked email shows Liberals to cut $98 million annually from RCMP budget. Now, I believe that the RCMP is bloated. They have so many DEI officers. The other day, you probably saw that one lady saying if someone suddenly starts talking about traditional family values, they might be a violent extremist. Like they're so woke.
Well, radicalization in general quite often will show by people isolating themselves and changing their behavior, like changing what they're saying on a subject, like becoming more extremist. And if someone was very believed in equal gender rights, but all of a sudden are leaning towards traditional values, and that might be a sign that they're becoming more extremist.
It's a liberal move. It's like a fireman first move to say, oh, we have to cut. Well, we have to cut from the police $100 million. We're not going to cut bureaucrats. We're not going to cut insane foreign aid. We got to cut the cops. I know there's room to tighten the belt at every institution, including the RCMP, but that's such a fireman first move, isn't it?
Oh, it's the oldest trick in the book, right? Oh, you want a little bit of savings? Well, let's go after the thing that people actually want, right? That is the oldest trick in the government playbook. All governments do it. All bureaucrats do it because they don't want to let go of your wallet. Right. So you want to fear you into thinking that there is no fat on the government stake to cut. But boy, let me tell you, there's lots of fat in Ottawa. Right. So you're totally right, Ezra. This is the oldest trick in the government book. But, you know, to a point that you raised too, or maybe a point that I'll really nail home is like, look, no disrespect to any service member, you know, whether that's in the police or in the forces. But, you know, like after 10 years of a Trudeau government, I think that you should be able to find savings in every single area of the budget, regardless of what it is, right? After the Trudeau government's crazy spending spree, savings should be found everywhere. Like, let me just give you an example about Department of National Defense, right? Where the Department of National Defense spent what? $30 million on sleeping bags that didn't work because they weren't warm enough for the Canadian winter. Really, military intelligence didn't see it coming that it gets kind of cold in Canada during the winter.